All right, so hi, let's cover 1.R.9 multiplication and division with real numbers. So let's go over the rules. Multiplication, division, same rules regarding signs. By that I mean positive numbers versus negative numbers. So if you've got two positive numbers, so if we got a positive times another positive, obviously that answer is going to be positive. So as an example, 5 times 3 is positive 15. Notice everything stayed positive, nothing changed. How about a positive times a negative? Well, a positive times a negative becomes negative. Example, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's progress. What about a negative times a positive? A negative times a positive is a negative. So again, negative 5, for example, times 3 is again negative 15. Finally, a negative times a negative, this one's everybody's favorite, right? A negative times a negative is a positive. So negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. Okay, here's our rules. Again, the same rules work with division. So if we had a positive divided by a positive, let's say 12 divided by a positive gives us positive. A positive divided by a negative gives us a negative. A negative divided by a positive gives us negative. And finally, a negative divided by negative is positive. Okay, so you can kind of view the different ones, right? A positive gives us positive. Positive divided by negative. So the rules stay the same. Okay. Let's continue. We're beating something up right here. All right. So now that we've discussed our rules, let's do a few examples. All right. So how about this one? How about 1 times negative 22? 1 times anything is that thing. So the answer is just negative 22. That's it. Next question. Next example. How about this one? How about 1 times 0 times 10? I got a positive times 0 is neither positive nor negative. What happens here? Well, anything times 0 is 0 by default. So 1 times 0 is 0. 0 times anything again is 0. So our final answer is just 0. Anytime you multiply 0 times anything, you'll get 0 as the result. Which brings me to the question about division. What about dividing with 0? What if we had 0 divided by 37? How many times does 37 go into 0? None. 0, right? I like to think of it this way. I got 0 pizzas, 7 people. How much pizza is each of those 37 people getting? 0, because there's none. No pizza. Versus, what if it was flipped upside down? What if it was 37 divided by 0? Let's read that again. 37 pizzas sitting in this room, but there ain't no people. Since there's no people, that don't even make any sense, right? The answer here is not 0. The answer here is undefined because it doesn't exist. Okay, no one in their right mind would buy 37 pizzas, leave them on a desk in a classroom, walk away, and just leave them there for the roaches, right? No one would do that. That don't even make sense. So anything divided by 0 is undefined. There's a little rhyming thing that I've heard one time that says, if 0's under the line, the answer is undefined. Keep that in mind. I'm trying to rhyme. I'm proud of it. That's 4 in a row. Okay, moving on. My brother's over here laughing at me, y'all. Anyway, so let's go ahead and multiply again. -3 times -3 times -4. Let's work with the first two. A negative times a negative is a positive. So -3 times -3 is positive. 3 times 3 is 9. Now a positive times a negative is a negative. And there's our final answer. 9 times 4 is 36. I can fit one more over there before we move on, before I need to start erasing. So what about a nice fraction, like 4/3 times -2/9? Well, okay, let's look at it. First thing that I would want to do, and we talked about this when we talked about our multiplication division of fractions, but I'm going to remind you, I want to try to reduce. 4 does not reduce with 3. 4 also does not reduce with 9. 2 does not reduce with either 3 or 9, either, I don't know which one to say. So we just multiply straight across. 4 times -2, that's a positive times a negative, so -8. And 3 times 9 is 27. Let me remind you of a quick thing. It doesn't matter if we write it this way or this way, or even this way. They all mean the same thing because the entire fraction is negative. -8 27ths, -8 27ths, -8 27ths. I will say that Hawks does not like this one though. Even though it's correct, Hawks doesn't like it. For whatever reason, it will mark it wrong. All right, do some erasing. Seven fifths times 1/3 times 1/5. Same principle here. Okay, I got 3 fractions in a row, but they're all positive, so we don't have to worry about positive or negative signs. We just have to simply multiply. But let's reduce if we can. Obviously, 1 isn't going to reduce with anything, but 7 might. Nope, not this time, right? So let's just multiply straight across. 7 times 1 is 7. Times 1 more is 7. 7 times 1 is 7 times 7. Times 1 is 7. Over. Or divided by. 5 times 3 is 15. Times 5 more is 75. So our final answer here is 7/75. There's no reducing here. Remember, if you can't reduce early, there's no way you can reduce later. What happens in this case? What happens here? What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. So we know our answer is going to be positive. Now I'm going to suggest that you just put that part in your calculator. Write it like this. Type it in like this. 40.2 divided by, because that's what a fraction means, 6.7. And if you do that, you'll get 6 for your final answer. Two 45ths divided by -1 over 81. Right. So we haven't talked about a division problem really yet, not like this, a fraction divided by a fraction, but we did whenever we taught multiplication and division of fractions. Remember, in this situation, we change the division to multiplication and reciprocate or take the reciprocal of our second fraction. Remember, it doesn't matter if I put the negative sign on top, bottom, or in the middle. I prefer it on top. Can we reduce anything here? Yes, we can. We can reduce the 81 with the 45 because they're both divisible by 9. So this negative 81 becomes negative 9, and this 45 becomes 5 when we reduce by 9. Let's multiply now. 2 times negative 9. Let me write it out again. 2/5 times negative 9 over 1. 2 times negative 9 is negative 18, and 5 times 1 is 5. We can leave our answer like that. One more example. And actually, let me make that a negative as well. Okay, so I got a negative divided by another negative. So our answer is going to be positive. You good? Remember that we must first change the sign and then reciprocate. Remember, negative times negative is a positive, so really we could just erase the negative signs after we recognize that. Let's reduce. 5 doesn't reduce with either, but 80 reduces with 24, both of them by 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. 80 divided by 8 is 10. I'm going to rewrite this as 5/3 times 10/9. All right, let's finish it off. Multiply 5 times 10 is 50 over 3 times 9 is 27. I want you to notice, before I turn off the camera, I want you to notice, not once did we find a common denominator. The only time you ever find a common denominator is whenever you're adding or subtracting fractions. At no point do we add or subtract fractions in this lesson. All right?